Well, hello. Just like that. No 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's how you doing me today? Listen. Oh, you're serious. What happened? Am I? Yeah, you play too much. Because I haven't received any notifications. You know why? Because I'm subscribed to We Are LA. How about it? Nah, ain't nobody said nothing. Maybe before it started. You wouldn't let me start my show like that. I'm not. That don't mean I'm live. So why I didn't have a countdown today? Everybody gonna hear us have this conversation today? No, I'm not talking about that. What's love got to do with it? I promise you would not allow me to start my show like that. All right. So, hello everyone. Um, I had no idea this is how we were gonna start today, but anyway, it's good to be here. Welcome to the show, to Conversations with Fran. We're gonna go ahead and get into it. I want you to always know you are welcome here in the village, and let's go ahead and get into it real quick. I need you to make sure you can hear me, so I need you to check your volumes and make sure I'm coming through nice and clear for you. Absolutely. All right. So listen, people, we got a couple of things that we need to talk about today. We're going to be talking about some serious things that have occurred over the last couple of weeks. Not only that, we want to get into something that happened last night right here in the city of LA. I can't talk about all these things happening in other places and not deal with the current circumstances of what we're experiencing here in Los Angeles. But before we get to that, I do want to get to my Instagram post of the day. And I'm going to also make sure I give you our call in number today. I know I sound a little bit down or something, but I'm really not. I'm actually good. I think I just got a little shocked by our start today. So forgive me if it takes me a minute to get there. So you ready for me
I'm ready for you on everything.
on the Instagram post? Okay. All right, here we go. It looks like I got a co-host today over there. How are you feeling? Let me check in with you.
Hey, I'm amazing. Hey guys, let me tell y'all what happened. I really messed up, but it was the internet. So that's why she sounded like that, because of me. She probably really fuming right now. Like, this brother done did this to me. Till you do right by me, ain't nothing in your life gonna be right.
Man, listen, I've learned at some point we got to take things with a grain of salt. I think I'm digging that brick wall, so I don't even want you to change it today. You already did?
No.
I just haven't seen it yet.
No, I was about to.
No, I'm glad. Just going away from that. Just let that roll. I kind of like that. I think I'm digging it. Okay, so yeah, you all let me know how you feel about it. You guys prefer the brick background? Because sometimes I feel like I'm in the way of my own sign. Like sometimes I want to scoot over. It's like, can you see me? I want to do one of those numbers, but no, not today. So listen, there are a couple of things that are going on in the city that we want to get to, but I really wanted to tackle my Instagram post of the day, and I wanted to kind of elaborate on it, if you would. You let me know when I'm good for that.
Hold on. It's up.
Okay.
Turn the Let's do this real quick like this. Okay, your quote is up.
All right. So let's talk about it real quick. This quote comes from Queen to Queen. Some of us aren't even chasing money. We're just doing what we love, and God is making sure we never have to struggle again. I'm going to read that again. Some of us aren't even chasing money. We're just doing what we love, and God is making sure we never have to struggle again. Listen, that post kind of got to me because just today someone asked me, how did you come about, doing this YouTube show? How are you, making this happen? How are you making that happen? When I honestly say to you, God, I mean it just like that. Everything that has happened has literally been a God connection, and in God's timing. And I'm gonna tell you why that's so important, people. One of the main reasons why that's so important is simply because, for one, we spend a lot of time trying to do things in our time. Things have to move according to our plans. And one of the oldest sayings I've heard from people is, if you ever want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And that's simply because the way he lines our lives up, all of us are connected in some type of way. Our blessings are attached to other people, in that you have to connect with certain people along your journey so that God's plan for your life can come to fruition. And if we get in front of it, putting the cart before the horse, sometimes we pass up the blessing because it didn't look like what we had in our mind. And oftentimes, God's blessings don't look like how we perceive it in our minds. You think I'm lying? Okay, y'all know I'm a preacher, so here we go. The Jews, they were looking for a Messiah. They expected their Messiah to come riding in on a horse. And, with chariots and all this kind of stuff. And then here come Jesus riding in on a donkey that he borrowed from somebody that he told the disciples, go down there and get it. And we just going to lay a coat over it, and I'm going to ride into the city. That is not what they were looking for, but he was the blessing they had been looking for. Oftentimes our blessings don't come in the packages that we expect. And that's a hard thing to follow because we have our own mentalities. I mean, let's just think about it. Let's look at men. Men are visual people. And if you tell a man that likes a big butt and a smile that his blessing is fat with big feet, he might not be so readily to accept that that's God's will for his life. But the blessing and the anointing that's connected to that person might be exactly what he needs for his life. And so it's a matter of opinion and a matter of how you look at things. Is your cup half full or is it half empty? And I want you to know today, mine is full of water. Why? Because Fran doesn't drink enough water in a day. All right. So last time, again, for those who might have jumped in a little bit late, the Instagram post of the day is, some of us aren't even chasing money. We're just doing what we love, and God is making sure we never have to struggle again. He will take care of you. He will make sure you have more than enough. You really just have to, trust his plan. That's it. That's all. That's about the size of that. So now let's go on and get into it. Listen, today we're talking about Kamala Harris. We're going to be talking about Jacob Blake. We're going to be talking about Chadwick Boseman. Then we're going to get into Lovecraft Country a little bit later on. But first and foremost, before we get to Kamala, on 109th and Budlong last night, I received a message from my uncle that there had been another shooting. The storyline that I received was that the suspect was on a bike with a semi-automatic weapon. All right. And then later I got another message that said it was an officer-involved shooting. In other words, the officer didn't get shot. The officers did some shooting. All right. We've already kind of seen that take place here recently in Kenosha, Wisconsin. A man was shot 7 times. I guess I'm gonna go there first. Then take me to Jacob Blake. Show me. I got something for you all to see. Jacob Blake is the gentleman that was shot in Yes, ma'am. You gotta drop your ego. Absolutely. But the thing is, Jacob Blake was shot in Kenosha, Wisconsin. He was the video shows him walking away from the officers. His hands are visible the entire time that he is walking away. And the only option that there it is. The only option that they had was to put bullets in this man. The only option that they had was to put 7 bullets in this man. And the first 2 shots, if you look closely, and I don't know if any of you have, for those of you that go to the shooting range, you know what the spray looks like after a shot has been fired, the smoke that comes up. But when a bullet hits a body, there's a spray of blood. This might be a little graphic, so if you got your kids, if you don't want to have this conversation, then check me out later. I'll be all right. You can see it happen. That was enough. The man kept walking, and he still made it to the vehicle. And at that point, he is now being pulled by the back of his T-shirt, and bullets are being pumped into him at close range. This, in turn, sparked another round of restless nights of protesting. There have been some positive protests, but then, of course, in the evening comes the looting and the rioting, and that's where people get upset because they're saying, see, they're taking it too far. Don't you think the officers took it too far? I mean, let's just be real. Come on. We're not asking for you to let us get off with murder just because we're black and we've already been through 400 years of slavery and still civil injustice and systemic racism. Yes, we've been through all of these things. All we're asking for is due process. Can we get due process like everyone else, like every other nationality that's clearer than us? I'm just saying, like, those are the things that bother me the most. And when people say, well, even with the George Floyd thing, good grief, I'll never forget. A young lady made the statement to me, well, he wasn't a real good person anyway. Well, if he hadn't written that bad check, he wouldn't have been in that situation anyway. Ma'am, sir, and anyone else who thinks with this type of persuasion, please hear me when I say, if he wrote a bad check, then he goes to jail. Bottom line, he should not be on the ground calling out for his mama with his last breaths. There is no way that a child should be able to go to YouTube and pull up a video of George Floyd's death and find it. That's not okay. And these are the things that I felt like, no, we have to talk about this. There are some artists who kind of made us laugh with some of their videos. David Glover, This Is America, and people spent so much time, they were grooving to it, but then when they actually watched the video, then they couldn't understand it, so then they turned it loose because it was too deep. It wasn't that it was too deep, it's just that you're a little too shallow. And it kind of calls for you to be a well-rounded person to understand what's really going on. Now, I've said all of that to say there were some conflicting feelings about the announcement of Senator Kamala Harris being the vice president bid, receiving that nod, and she is now looking at being the first female vice president. And please understand, she's of Indian descent. So to have someone indigenous stepping into that position is quite it kind of left me feeling some type of way. I felt great about it, but then of course, with all things you want to be excited. With all of the good comes the negative, and one of the things that kind of bothered me was the fact that they were saying, well, she's not really for black people. She believes in putting people in jail and making their sentences harsher. Okay, listen. First of all, let's understand who she is. Okay, Kamala Harris she comes out of the Oakland area, but she was basically raised in Berkeley. Her mother and father separated when she was young. Her mother was pursuing being an actress. She has a sister. Kamala has a sister, and her mother raised them, black, if you would, to be strong black women. She went on to attend Howard University, which is a historically black university. She went to Howard. She's an AKA. So I believe this will be the first time that one of the Divine Nine, Greek Love, will be in the White House in this position. So there are a lot of awesome moments about this that we have to take in. And so not only that, she went on to become a prosecutor. And while she was being a prosecutor, she began an organization with little to no money. So always remember, don't despise your humble beginnings. But it was called Back on Track. She created Back on Track. And what that was, it was an organization that was set up to try to reform women from, if they had a drug charge, you still got tried for the drug charge. But instead of you going to jail for that charge, you went into a reentry program that taught you skills, got you set up with the job. And there are people that are working in wonderful careers to this day because they got a second chance at an organization started by Kamala Harris. Now, those are all awesome accolades to have to your credit. But then she decided to push it a little bit further, and she went for the office of district attorney. And that was a hard battle for her to fight because she's against the death penalty. Now, along with her being against the death penalty, that meant when Officer Espinoza, because this happened around that time, and keep in mind she was very good friends with Dianne Feinstein. Matter of fact, when she was sworn in to district attorney, it was Dianne Feinstein that swore her in. So later on, when Officer Espinoza is killed in the San Francisco area, mind you, Kamala Harris is the first female district attorney in San Francisco. So everything she's doing, she's breaking down all these barriers. We have every reason to be proud of it. But watch what happens. When Officer Espinoza gets killed, they immediately call for the death penalty, and they want her to make it happen. And at Espinoza's funeral, Dianne Feinstein did not call Kamala Harris's name, but she basically said that the person who killed Espinoza after all of his years of service to this city deserves to die. Now, what you think she's saying? She's basically saying, hey, Kamala, he needs to die. So you're going to have to let go of this, your stance, your position. She never changed her position. Life may change you, but you never change your position. You never change what you believe in if you really hold it to be true, because people will try to make you do it at every turn. So then, after she didn't give and she didn't budge on that, the next thing we see is she's going for the office of being a senator. Now, this was interesting because I've watched her take down some of the hardest people when they have to go before the Senate. And she's probably not the one you want asking you any questions, simply because she's a prosecutor. So that means that she's going to look at all the facts and she's going to pick you apart. But the one thing I have to say about her is she's fair. She's fair in listening and hearing everything. But when she asks you a direct question, she's not the one to deflect. You know how some people like to deflect? You ever talk to somebody that they deflect at every turn? Yeah. So, those are the things that, those are the things that made me look at her and say, okay, I think we're going to have a running start. Now, her and Biden really didn't get along on a couple of things. She kind of went at his head on a few things, but I think that was probably what led him to make that decision. Because nobody just wants a yes man. Well, if your name is Trump, you probably want a yes man. But everybody doesn't want a yes man. Everybody doesn't want somebody that's just going to go with what you said because you said it. You know, where are the facts? What is the underbelly of this? What other thoughts and processes should we consider before we make that move? That's the person that you want to have in the room with you. That's the person that you want to try to help you make the best sound decision, especially when it's not just for you, but it's for the United States of America. Not only that, but she's young. Much younger than Biden, much younger than Trump, much younger than Pence and his soft-talking self, okay? So, bottom line, she's bringing a fresh voice. She's bringing the ear of the woman vote, which is important. She's also speaking. She's also bringing the voice of people of color. Okay, regardless of nationality, she's bringing that voice. And the cool thing about it is, and what sometimes people don't understand, in order to create change, you have to have a seat at the table. Which means that oftentimes people are not gonna like you. They're not gonna like you. They're not gonna always like your positions. You know, they're not gonna always like your opinion about things, but you have got to be you. Case in point, when I decided that I was gonna do this show, honestly, Gray, I really thought like maybe I do need to have a co-host or somebody to kind of to bounce, to try to bounce my ideas off. Maybe I need that. And then I really thought, I'm like, I don't want to be locked in to just one person, because once I figure out your position on things, I kind of already know how the conversation is going to go. And if it's not conducive to what we're trying to put out, it might not be best. So I decided that I wanted to keep it open. I wanted to keep it open so that way fresh ideas could always flow. Not only that, I could never get stagnant in my thought process because I'm constantly being enlightened by other people. Just in listening to their positions, which was the reason I decided my co-host is going to be my village. It's going to be the people who watch me, or it's going to be the people who are listening to me, the people that are commenting and checking it out. Those are going to be the people that I'm going to have the conversation with, simply because sometimes we just need to, for real, sit back and chat about the ideas, chat about the thoughts and the things that are going on in the city. And it's really a lot. Now, I know my producer said that Black Lives Matter was out there last night, and it was over 300 people down there, whatever the case, and they're protesting because of what has happened. Social distancing can kiss wind, apparently, when it comes to something of this nature. And those are the moments that make me think, sometimes we have to be wise. I'm not saying that we can't stand up and protest. Child, get out there. Let them know how we feel about it. Because it's been a long time coming. I don't know I'm sure my village has seen the movie Selma. You've seen all of these movies where protesting was the way. That was the only way to get the message across. People did not respond until we said, no, it's enough. And that's the bottom line. It's enough. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're not even, in Los Angeles. Okay, I learned this from Lovecraft Country, and I'm gonna get there in a minute. But the sundown cities, we're not a sundown city. Okay, and for those that don't understand, and you're gonna need this when I get to Lovecraft, so I'll tell you what it is now. For those that might not know, you might be too young, because quiet is kept. I just heard the phrase sundown city about 2 weeks ago. Okay, but I'd already heard of the Green Book. I knew what the Green Book was. The Green Book was the travel guide for Black people, and in that day for colored people, so that you knew where to stop and where not to stop. You know, and I remember my dad telling the story. It was he had 9 brothers and sisters. Okay, so it's 10 kids all together. They load up in a station wagon and they go down south, but they never stopped for much of nothing, simply because they couldn't stop because of the places where they were going. They were going to Oklahoma, so you had to go through a whole lot of white towns in the 60s to get to Oklahoma. All right, if you were on Route 66, you went through some stuff and you didn't stop. And he always wondered why his mom packed so much food, sandwiches for days, fried chicken. She started cooking 3 days before the trip actually happened, just to make sure they had enough. And it was because of the sundown cities. But I promise you, a lot of us, even right now, if you're listening to the show, you might have heard sirens just now, because on my way here, the helicopter was hovering in place. So apparently, it's still some stuff going on. Village, y'all tell me what's going on out there, because I was just trying to make sure I get in here so that I could talk to you all. But when I tell you, it's really starting to feel like all across the country, it's going to be a sundown country in a minute, because black people are not safe. Bottom line. And I was listening, you know, I listened to a lot of commentary, you know, because I really try to make sure that my thoughts I'm not going too far left, but sometimes I feel like I haven't gone far enough, you know, in my position or in speaking on it. But I will say this: if we don't take us seriously, there is a small margin of black people that really don't take the movement seriously. Okay? Whether you believe it or not, no matter how educated you are, you get pulled over at night, your heart's gonna start beating a little bit different, simply because you don't know who's walking up to your car and how they're getting ready to treat you. That's the part that bothers me. Those are the things that I think about when I consider how my parents must have felt when I was 17 and 18, you know, and I got a brand new car and I'm up and down the streets. I'm an only child. So it's like, you know, I had to be my own backup. I tell people all the time, it's a different mentality when you realize you own your own. You hold yourself a little bit different. You know, you don't play as much. It's been some times that Grace called me and I'm out driving and I know I sound serious as all outdoors, but I'm focused, because I feel like if I take my eyes off the wheel for a minute, if I focus on something else a little bit too tough, I'm gonna get caught slipping. You know what I'm saying? So it is. It's a hard thing. Somebody just said Texas is one of them. A sundown state. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, Joe Dirt said LA cops pulling bicyclists over. 32 rounds they put in that. Excuse me? 32 rounds? Good grief. Oh man, that's a bit vicious right there. 32 rounds. Yeah, that's enough to make some folks get out and boycott. But see, this is what I'm saying. It's the excessive force that we're mad at. Okay? That's the problem. It was at one point just getting hit with a billy club, you know, that's what we got upset about. But you about to take a whole life. Like, you literally got up this morning, went to work, and decided, I don't get to go home today. Really? The cold part, jumping back to Wisconsin, this the cold part. They're outside protesting, and they're calling them vigilantes, okay, decide that they're going to suit up with rifles, and they just saying long guns for media purposes, I guess, because they don't want to say semi-automatic or a rifle or none of that kind of stuff. This man starts shooting at people, right? He shoots at people, And then someone actually got close enough to hear him on the phone saying, I just killed somebody. White man. He is not a police officer. He's a 17-year-old boy with a rifle. And when the people tried to take him down because the police weren't doing anything, and they got to him, he shot 3 or 4 more people at close range. 2 people died, and at least 6 to 8 people walked away injured. Now, this is the cold part. He starts walking towards the police with his hands up, okay? He walks towards the police with his hands up, and they roll right by him. Listen, I'm good. Listen, this man did not get arrested until the next day. His hands are up. The gun is on him, okay? The people are yelling to the police. He just shot all those people back there. They roll right by him. I want to ask the village a question, and you can call in 424-390-6993. I want to ask the village a question. Who was more of a threat? Jacob Blake, did I say his name right? Because I don't want to mess nobody's name up. Was Jacob Blake more of a threat? Empty hands, wife beater on, shorts on, walking around his car to get in his car. Was he more of a threat than the man with his hands up, walking towards the police with the gun on him, and people saying he just shot some people? Who's more of a threat? Y'all can call in 424-390-6993. I mean, really. We gotta, and somebody said privilege. Jack Redfern, I hear you, man. Privilege, that white privilege. Yeah, we've heard that too, and I guess it's white privilege and black underprivilege. That's how it lands for us, you know. And the thing is, the part that gets me, you got all of these people that have done these things. And the one that stands out the most to me, it was a boy that decided to shoot up a place. And instead of taking him straight to jail, they stopped at Burger King. White folk get to stop at Burger King when they shoot up black people. You know, and what it reminded me of, great, and this is bad because it's not funny, but when I heard that storyline and when I saw them photographing that man coming out of Burger King in handcuffs, with a bulletproof vest on. He had a bulletproof vest on. So if a cop decided to grab him by his shirt, the way they grabbed Jacob Blake, and start pumping bullets into him, he wouldn't have even died. He would have just been hurt. He would have been sore. Are you kidding me? But Jacob Blake has a severed spine, and his paralysis, they're not sure if it's permanent. Okay. Listen. We gotta I don't even know how to say this, but I really need white folks to leave us alone. I'm sorry we're so amazing. I apologize that we just excel on every leaning side. Forgive us for being so great, you know, but it's not our fault. We were made this way. God made us like this. He made us amazing. So, you know, y'all been hating on us for a very long time, you know, and apparently going to the beach and getting a tan ain't letting none of the black rub off. You understand? But let me tell you this. Black people, we've got to be careful. We've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to be mindful of the people that are around us. Not only the people that are around us, but we also have to be mindful of how we conduct ourselves when we're out there. So I'm going to assume we got a caller. And hey caller, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. My name's Jake. How are you?
I'm good. Say your name again for me.
Jake.
Jake? Hi, Jake. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Awesome.
So, go ahead.
Go ahead. Share your thoughts, man.
So we were talking about the Jacob Blake, isn't that correct?
Yes.
Case? Okay. So the situation when we talk about threats, now, we all need to realize that we don't have all the facts yet. Okay, but they were dispatched to Jacob Blake, they were called by his girlfriend because he was trying to take the keys to the vehicle. And so there are two facts that we're not clear on, and that is whether the officer knew whose children were in the car, and he didn't have to be a threat to the officer. He could have been a threat to the children because they were responding to someone trying to take the vehicle and take the keys. And so the threat could have been to the children.
Okay.
Now, I don't know what happened outside of the car, but we do need to take that in consideration and wait for some more facts to come out because we have to take care of our children.
Yeah.
So we don't want him to be a high-speed chase and have an accident. We don't want him to be kidnapping them. And they didn't know all of those facts, but they do have a responsibility to take care of those children.
Listen, I'm a teacher, so I'm a mandated reporter, and you are absolutely correct that we have a responsibility to protect children. Bottom line, I have no argument over that. But when an animal gets loose on the street, they don't immediately go to shoot to kill. They have tranquilizers, they have everything else. Cops have tasers, and they were close enough that all of them could have tased him and still not killed him. And it still would have stopped him from getting in the vehicle. You understand? Like, there are maneuvers that they are taught. His hands are open. Okay. I think sometimes, sir, because of my background, it really kind of rubs me the wrong way. Simply because, like, for instance, I had to do CPI training, right? And that's so that we could safely handle children with disabilities, but they have behaviors and they can possibly be a threat to others as well as a threat to themselves, right? And so
Correct.
there are certain maneuvers that we were taught and had to be certified before we could go back to the classroom, that we knew what to do in the event that something happened. We knew how to subdue a person without harming, breaking bones. And guess what? I've had to do it several times because for some odd reason, they see the big girl and they go, oh yeah, she thinks she can handle it. They want to try it. And they found out the hard way. I can still put you down and still keep my job without hurting you. So my point is, if I had to go through this training to work with children with disabilities, what more of a training to the point that they have a whole academy for police to learn how to handle people? Why is go for the gun and kill the first option? Or you see what I'm saying, Jake? That's what I'm saying. I hear you. Get the facts, find out the details and all of that. But how did we get to the gun?
Well, that's an interesting point. I raised that in several conversations over the weekend.
Sure.
Because I don't know what the call for removing the gun from their holster was, but something instigated that. Now, a video doesn't give us the ability to read the person. Me and you were talking.
Course.
I can tell your level of, say, you were agitated. We can easily, communicate without words, and so we don't have that feeling by watching the video. What we have is 20/20 hindsight, and that allows us to say we should have done this, we should have done that.
Absolutely.
I don't have all the facts, and if I knew, because I've heard reports that say, well, they wrestled him to the ground, they did try to use a taser, but I haven't heard any official reports on that. I don't have a police statement to clarify that, so I can't judge on everything that happened prior to that, but when people take it as a threat, knife or no knife, if you just remove the knife out of the situation and you're looking at just protecting the children, it may have been their only option. The problem was, if the officer would not have had the gun out, he may have gone for say, a neck hold and try to pull him backwards. But
Mm-hmm.
the gun was already out. Now, we have to ask this question, too, and that is, what did Jacob Blake do to preserve his life? You know, we all know these police incidents happen, and we're aware of them. So we also have to take a little bit of personal responsibility to the point, like, we need to make sure that we're protecting our lives. Like, if a police officer tells me to reach in my glove box, I'm just as likely to tell him, no, I'd rather be outside the vehicle. You can get what's in there. Sorry, it's just what it is. Today, I don't want to be a victim. So I'm going to do everything I can to protect my life. But you also look at the domestic violence situation. So there was already assumed hot-tempered attitude. And the police there, they didn't calm when they show up, that's not calming it down.
It
kind of
actually
rises
heightens it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So I think that as it comes out, we just need to wait for that and to make a final judgment on it. I understand there's no body cam footage, but I would like to see the reports and statements and more of an official release before I say, okay, they're 100% wrong. But we also have to take personal responsibility, and he shouldn't have entered that vehicle with those children knowing those cops were telling him to stop. There's no reason to say, all right, hands up, I'm good. I'm not judging him on a past record. We know that there are warrants out for his arrest, and they knew that before they pulled up. But I'm not judging him on that. It's
right, because when it's
he
all
should have
said
just
and
been
done,
like,
due process. That's all I'm saying. Allow the person to get to due process, and I think we could have done it because someone in the comments just said that they did try tasing him and it didn't work. Okay, so
Right.
if they tased him and it didn't work, and so then they moved to the next step. My thing, but still, if you're moving to the next step, 7 bullets, like, dude.
well, and 7 bullets sounds like a lot. But when you're in a very hard situation, I could think 10 bullets in range in a second and a half. That's really not a challenge. The officer probably wasn't counting bullets. He was just trying to. Officers do choke. That's another word I've heard out there. Like sometimes they just choke, and this is the result. But he already had the weapon out, so to assume that he was going to put that weapon back in his holster and try to physically restrain him, he did try to grab him by the shirt. That was
and how many more cops were out there? That's the thing. I hear you. Yes, we got to be mindful of how we handle ourselves. I mean, that's a given, because that's the same statement somebody tried to make to me about George Floyd. Like, well, if he hadn't written the check, he wouldn't have been in trouble in the first place. Bruh, but it's so many of you. It was 3 cops standing there. That's my part. That's the part that bothers me when I look at the amount of officers there. Now, had that little man been by himself, trying to go up against Jacob Blake or whatever, and it wasn't working and he had no backup, okay, fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could almost see how he could not restrain him, and it's getting bad. Things are getting worse and worse. But how do you, with all of this backup, I thought that was the reason why they called for backup. You call for backup, you know what I'm saying, so that you can help resolve the situation in the best way possible. Because when it's all said and done, slam him to the floor, slam him to the ground, restrain him, put him in cuffs, since he's not following your orders. I don't understand. Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And not at you, not at you, but I'm just saying, it sucks, man. Like, I don't know. It just really makes me wonder sometimes, like, okay, if I know they have to do psychological evaluations. I know all of the steps, and I know the steps because I wanted to be SWAT, and then I couldn't stop eating. So then there goes life. But, my thing is, like, come on. There's so much training that is involved in being an officer. At some point, you got to pull on what you know. And pulling the gun just can't be the first thing. And whoever this juice is, go do something with your life in the chat. Continue, Jake.
All right. Well, obviously there needs to be some improvement, but we're never going to get anything 100% correct. I mean, if you take 2019, I know you've heard the statistics, had 9 unarmed black men killed in 2019. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I hate to tell you, out of 130 million people, that's pretty good. I'm sorry the wrong people died, but when you think of how many interactions, and I don't know the exact numbers, I'm not sure random, statistics for you, but that's pretty good. Now we always need to strive to do better, but to expect us to ever meet 100% quota, it's not going to happen. There are too many personalities, attitudes, situations. Anything can come in and at the last minute. An officer can get scared or choked up, and that happens. Like, I don't know if you've seen this, I can't remember the exact year on it, but there was a guy who was holding a pellet gun out of the window, I think it was in Arizona or Nevada, and the police came. I don't know if you've seen this video, and they shot this white guy in the hallway while he was laying on the ground crawling towards the police.
Mm-hmm.
Shot dead. And I have no idea. The officer that shot him had the best lawyers on earth. Absolutely, because there's no way that I would have found him not guilty. But they got a not guilty verdict. They tried the guy, yet not guilty. He was unarmed, crawling on his hands and knees, and they shot him to death in a hallway with nobody else. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's not a racial thing. It is a police thing. I don't think that's sort of on police, but I'll survive.
Police brutality is police brutality, no matter how you slice it or dice it. Okay, that's that part. But what I'm speaking to at this moment are situations that are happening that it's excessive. Okay, it's the excessive force of things. There have to be other options. Yes, we have to take other things into consideration. But when I know that my life is on the line, see, this is what I need the cops to think about. Because, see, the ones that did it to George Floyd, they really thought they were going to get off. And then, sidebar, can we please arrest the folks that killed Breonna Taylor? Now, back to this. The part that's really killing to me is that the officers are not considering my whole life is getting ready to change. If I pull this trigger, my life is going to change. I will never be able to get away from the fact that I shot this particular person. No matter where I go, I will always be known as the person who did this. Now, I know that there's some sadistic people out there that live for that type of popularity. They live for that type of foolishness. You know what I'm saying? And so when it's all said and done, my issue, and I thank you so much, Jake, my issue is that it's the excessive force, the inability to make the hard decisions at a moment's notice, which is what we're literally asking police officers to do. We're asking, you know what I'm saying? It's like, yes, we need to be mindful of all life. You know, we get into the Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. I feel everybody ought to be able to go home and get a good night's rest. As long as I'm not bothering you and you're not bothering me, God bless you as you go. You know, but no, I'm serious. But the part that kills me is when a person makes a decision that I'm going to be God today and I'm going to take somebody else's life and I'm going to go home. Jake, I want to say thank you, sir, because you did not have to call in and share your position. I appreciate it. And don't be a stranger to the village, all right?
All right. Very nice chatting with you. Have a great night.
Absolutely. Take care, man. All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I can see right now it's going down in the chat. This brother Juice, did you pay him to troll the chats today? Like, what's going on? Who is this man? I see Aaron Gibson. You jumped in the chat. Good to see you. Listen, it's 7:22. Let me come on around the bend real quick. Once again, you can call in 424-390-6993. I got a caller. Hey, talk to me.
Hi, I'm a little under the weather right now. Rest a little bit. So, but I did want to talk about some of the things that we experience as Black people in America. And one of the things is that the police come out automatically with their guns blazing. Mm-hmm. I've seen police officers pull people over for a simple traffic stop and say, if you effing move, I'll blow your effing head off. So the police are already coming with excessive force to Black people. They already have an agenda. They already have a preconceived notion. The caller before you said it. They already assumed that he was aggressive. They assumed something about him on the oath that he was Black. I'm sure that there are not too many white people who are afraid when the police get behind them. they'll be pulled over for the type of cars that they drive. Because for us, it's a catch-22. I've been pulled over for no reason, and they didn't give me a ticket at all. But because the car that I was driving, either I shouldn't afford it, or it's labeled as a certain type of car only when you're black, though. So the experiences that we have in America from the inception of America, us being killed at an alarming rate, has always been. It's just that it's being televised now. And so then you have people who will say, well, why didn't you comply? Plenty of people complied, and they didn't live to tell about it.
Absolutely. Whether
you run from the police or you stay there, they make a choice that your life is not valuable based on the color of your skin.
And this is the thing that gets me. I understand that. Don't do anything to get in trouble. Do you realize that when people get pulled over, you already go into a whole different mindset. And for me, I think I'm kind of numb to a lot of stuff now, so my reaction might not be like everybody else's. And I've been in some situations where, it could have went left, but I was in my zone, And what I mean by being, I'm glad you think this is cute, but anyway, with me being in my zone, I mean it in the sense of when I realize who I'm dealing with and what it is that I'm dealing with, the type of people, right. I adjust my demeanor immediately. And so right. I'm on guard. I can be respectful and still be on guard. I can still be knowledgeable of my rights and you know what I'm saying, and still handle myself. And so that's basically my driving part. I don't have to be doing anything. You really gonna have to dig to try to get me to come out of my character. You understand? Because I'm understanding that my position and what I'm doing, what I got to do the next day is way more important than this ticket. Okay?
Right.
Bottom line. So you're not about to sit up here and mess my life up. And I'm very clear about that. When they get to asking questions, like, nope, you fishing now.
Right.
I talk because that's who I am, And if you're not made up that way, shut up. And sign the ticket. I'm just being honest. Don't try to jump bad all of a sudden. Don't do nothing because you got an audience, because that's what happens. Because now you're not in your element no more, because that ain't how you really are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's the thing. But my point is, a lot of the issues that are happening is simply because people are actually scared of the police. They're scared. So let me get away from you. I would rather run than stand here and let you kill me, So that's why some people do certain things, and that's what has to be understood. Are there criminals out there? Yes, it's white criminals, it's black criminals, but what I'm saying is handle it accordingly, okay? I don't hear about the white folks getting hung up from trees and stuff like that. There are no vigilante black people running around stringing up white folks. All right.
It's justification when it's done against black people. It's justification. The cops are just doing their job. I don't know of any cop training that says you pull a person over, pull a gun out on them and say, move or I'll blow your head off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Nobody says that. And people don't see racism when they haven't experienced racism. And black people cannot be racist, because black people have no systematic control over anything.
Let me tell
Therefore, we cannot be racist. But what happens is that people don't have the same experiences, so they look at other people's experience through their lenses. So they see kumbaya, where we're just seeing that my mom lived in a segregated Mississippi. My mother, forget about my grandmother, just my mother, one generation away, lived in a segregated Mississippi, where it was against the law to sit next to a white person on the bus, where it was against the law for you to walk on the sidewalk when a white person was walking on the sidewalk.
Absolutely.
This is the kind of stuff that we have dealt with.
Absolutely.
So we watched our people be hung. For no reason. She went to integrated school when she was 10. They had just integrated schools in Mississippi during that time.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to deal with little kids, with grown-ups coming to the school, spitting, beating kids for no reason. What we are experiencing is history repeating itself, but it's repeating itself through some police officers. And not all police officers are
No,
bad.
they're
Don't get
not.
me wrong.
I got them in my family, so it's
Right.
like I know,
Exactly. And
I
that's
know
what
the
I'm saying. We
difference.
know,
I
I
have
know
friends that are
police
officers,
officers.
and they
Me too.
right, and they know my position. They know where I stand on
Yes.
stuff. They know it that they know that they got some that that blue code of honor. They know
Yes.
exactly what that is. So it's not like I'm saying anything strange or out of the ordinary. The only people that seem to be shocked are the people in the chat. But y'all stay
And the thing about
shocked.
it is, right, stay shocked because you're saying all types of things that you know nothing about. Until you live in a black skin, you will never understand. The person that said teach your children to comply, I'm glad that they're in the comments because they automatically, we had a discussion the other day. I said, I wish we could have a dialogue in person. Oh, you want to fight? Assuming because I'm black, I want to fight. No. What I want you to do is tell me in my face all that you're saying in these chats. That's
Absolutely.
all. I want all the smoke.
Absolutely.
And I'm willing to give all the smoke.
Absolutely.
But I want to talk about it. I want you to talk about it with me and tell me. But that's something that you won't do. Because what people do, what cowards do, is sit in chat and talk about people who are trying to say something and get a point across instead of listening. So they come to be combative. But I come to give all the smoke in person, though, because I'm really
I'm gonna need
about
more
that
than
life
that.
for real.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that when people don't live in your skin and they can't walk in your shoes, then they really don't understand what you're going through. Nobody's making up the fact that people are being killed by the police in alarming rates. We live in LA. LAPD is one of the most corrupt police places that
Absolutely.
we can find in America. I didn't even know other police stations were corrupt like that. I thought it was just New York and LA. So
Absolutely.
this is the internet is shedding new light on what we've seen, and now we see it around the world against our people.
Absolutely.
But people are not going to understand what we go through. They're going to act like it doesn't exist. They're going to say, teach your kids to show respect. Well, teach your kids when they grow up not to shoot people just because they're black. Teach your mothers don't have kids and then drive them in a river to kill them and drown them. Come on, let's teach them respect since we're talking about respect.
Absolutely.
I got all the time in the world to just tell you about what you need to do.
Absolutely. But my
Why you
producer
trying to tell us what we need to do?
Absolutely, but my producer gave me 5 minutes, so
All right,
I
go
don't have
ahead,
all the
then.
time in the world tonight. I promise you, I wish I
All
did,
right.
but I appreciate you. Thanks for calling in and being a part of the village.
No.
Listen, so that leads me to this, and then I'm a wrap it up with Chadwick. I'm gonna go here. Listen, so there's this new TV show on HBO called Lovecraft Country, and the reason why I decided that I'm gonna go with the reviews of reviewing this particular show is because this show actually asked the question: what's scarier, racist cops, racist people, or actual sci-fi monsters? If you know anything about H.P. Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft was he wrote a lot of horror, books, all that type of stuff. Not only that, he was an avid and known racist. Bottom line. All right. So that's what makes this show so interesting, because of the amount of melanin in the writing room on this particular TV show that has now taken a setting in the 50s and 60s. Remember, I told you we was going to get to that sundown country. They've taken a hard look at segregation and what that looks like. Walking into restaurants and not being able to eat because it's whites only. Having to ride in the back of the bus because black people can't sit at the front, and on the opening show, the bus breaks down, and when help only comes for the white people. The black folks had to walk many country miles to get to where they needed to be just to be in Chicago. So I would say to you, but before I ruin or spoil anything, that's the show that we will be reviewing. So you got some homework. You got 3 episodes to check in on. I promise you, it's definitely going to cause you to think. It's going to cause you to look at what's scarier, monsters or the racist monsters that we've lived with for years now. Now, with that being said, I have to wrap this show up with one of the most awe-striking deaths that definitely has taken the whole country, the whole world by storm. But I have to see his strength before I see the weakness of the disease that took him away from us so soon. I'm speaking of the person that is Chadwick Boseman. Listen, this awesome black man used the last 4 years of his life knowing that he was going to die. He used the last 4 years of his life to give us some of the best rich black movies that we've ever experienced. From Marshall, Jackie, the Jackie Robinson story. He played James Brown. And then he took it up a notch and he gave us Black Panther on such a grand level that everybody dressed up to go see Black Panther. And I can't even tell you how many times I saw Black Panther. But he gave us King T'Challa. And last week he closed his eyes and he got out of here. And I saw a post that said, why is it that people cry over folks that they never physically met? And it's because of the awesome work that they give us. He did not give us his weakness. What I mean by that is he did not take us on the journey of his illness. He took us on the journey of his purpose. He took us on a journey of fulfilling all of who you are and giving the last of who you are to people that are undeserving and to those that might never truly appreciate you. But I wanted to pause on the platform that I have and say, rest in power. Chadwick, you gave us a lot. You caused a lot of us to believe again. You caused us to think a little bit more. You taught us to be picky about what we accept and never do what the stereotypes do. You enriched the lives of so many little black boys that one of the strongest pictures I saw was where a little boy took all of his Avengers and put them in a circle with Black Panther laying in the middle because he learned what respect was, and he learned how a king is supposed to be treated. You taught black women that it's okay to love a strong black man. You taught us to appreciate a black man who appreciates himself. You gave us a lot. And so with all the civil unrest, with all of the foolishness that's out there in the world, I want to say to the village, love on somebody in your family. Tell them that you care about them. All of the talking, we can talk all day long. All of the the running the mouth that they do, the running the mouth that they're doing in the chat, that's great. It's perfect. It's good. Get your jollies if that's what you need to do. But I want to say to my village, I love you. I appreciate you. And I'm going to see you next week. I'm out of here.